Hey everybody, I just wanted to give you an update on my Holochess table project. Last time I showed off the electronics for the table with this big development board I was creating. And since then I've moved on to Arduino Mega Shields. And after prototyping a few of these, I think I've finally come up with the final version of my Mega Shield. And I started off with this PCB I designed. This is the silk screen of that PCB, and after soldering all my components I came up with this design here. So I'm just going to speak briefly about this board itself, and then we're going to go into actually demonstrating how the electronics work. So here we'll see I've got my 13 LEDs. These are the LEDs that you see appearing on the top of the Holochess table. And then what happens there is I have a little LED wire that plugs into the slots. So all 13 of my LEDs plug into the board here. And then I've got a 14th slot that I'm not currently using, but I've set up just in case I want to have like a power LED but somewhere on the board. There isn't really a place for it, but if I want to add another light, I can do that. Then here I have my game length knob. That lets me adjust the game length. And then up here at the top, I have my mode, sound, on and off, and my volume knobs. So each of those 4 knobs plug into here. And those correspond here with the board. This knob, and then these 2 knobs over here. Then I have my 25 buttons, and these are the buttons that actually play the game. I've got my monster stats and selection, my attack, and my defense. I have these great little button racks, and these plug into those corresponding buttons. That accounts for 25 of the buttons. There's actually 27 buttons on the board itself, and for those, right here, I have my 2 blank buttons. I don't know if you can see those, and my roll button. The roll button's all the way on the end of the board. And then I've got a couple extra pinouts that I can use for additions later on. I also have this TX-RX ground and 5-volt out. This actually connects to another board on its TX-RX 5-volt out. And that allows this board to communicate with the other one and also provide power to the board. So I only need 1 power insert, and then this board can actually provide power to the other. And then here I have my LCD screen plug-in. My LCD screen plugs into that. Here's a screen example. This guy actually shows up right here. These 2 little slots you see here. My LCD screen will eventually be slightly protruding out of those slots. So this whole module will be behind, and it'll be just raised slightly outside of here. And this will end up showing my monsters that I currently have on my team. And then lastly, I have this great little Adafruit sound effects board that provides my sound, and it has a place to just plug in here on my shield and an output for a speaker headphone jack. And there it is. So now I'm going to show you how this thing actually works. So here's our board completely hooked up. I've got all my LEDs laid out here. I've got 2 key racks plugged into each side. I've got my connection wire that connects my 2 boards together, and my LCD screens. I also have this USB wire coming in providing power, and I've hooked up this cool little board that I found. I think it's called a website called Pololu or something like that. This is a board that allowed me to have a momentary switch turn on and off my power. What I was able to do was split that out to 2 rotary encoders, and each of these would be on either side of the table, and they'd both independently be able to turn on and off the board, which I'll do right now. So if I turn this, it turns on. And that noise lets me know that the program started. And then this is the other side of the table. If I turn that, it would turn it off. So each side of the table can turn on and off the table. I'll turn it on one more time. So I've got these giant speakers plugged in. I can basically use whatever kind of speaker I want as long as it's got a headphone out. which is plugged here into my effects board. And then this board is running on a much smaller speaker just because of the type of board it is. Eventually I'll have a big speaker on that too, but the volume for this side is much quieter than this, so you'll probably notice that. This here adjusts the game length. So that'd be a large game length. Turn it down to a short one. And then I have this guy here which adjusts the volume. And then I have two more switches here. Currently these aren't really doing anything, but this is going to turn on and off the sound. And then this guy here will change the game mode. I'm not really happy with this sound, but it's just there temporarily. Anyway, so all four of those knobs work, as well as the power knob that I just showed you. And they work independently on each side, so I can adjust the game length on this side, and it'll also be adjusting the game length for their side, and so on. But anyway, to start the game, I select my monsters. So I'm going to select the first four monsters. And you'll see each of those four monsters appear on my LCD screen. Those are the symbols for each of them. And then over here on the other side of the table, because these boards are communicating, I can't select those four monsters because they've already been selected, but I can select new monsters. So you'll see they appear here on the... So there's that. And then once the game started, my LEDs flash up here. And now once we're in game mode, these monster selection keys actually turn into statistics keys that let you know the stats for each monster. So if I hit one of these, it'll let me know that that monster has an attack of 8, a defense of 2, and a movement of 2. So what I'm going to do now is attack with the opponent. So I had hooked up this key to attack with one of his monsters. So he rolled a 2. And then I'd be prompted to defend. This light here will blink. And I'll defend with mine. And I rolled a 1. So I would have lost that fight. My monster wouldn't die, but I would have lost and been pushed back. Anyway, so that's generally how the electronics are working. I still haven't made any progress on the programming. It's pretty simple, actually, but I just haven't had the time to sit down. I've been screwing around with all this. But the electronics are basically done. I've estimated that each one of these boards takes me about 4.5 hours to produce. There's 400 individual holes that I drill out and solder, and then each of these wires needs to be soldered, and I have to add some DuPont pin connectors at the base of them, crimp these individually, strip these, solder them, and so on. And I haven't really added up what that takes yet, but I know that just to do the two boards alone takes me pretty much a full 9 hours. So it's a pretty involved project, but I'm enjoying the way it's turning out. The electronics are finished, and now moving on to programming and finishing up this table, and we'll be there. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope to talk to you guys again soon.